Hey there, cats and kitties. I am the Blues Man, Johnny Blues, and with this video, I'll be discussing my thoughts on Series 9, Episode 3 of Doctor Who, Under the Lake. And I gotta say from right out of the gate that I was pleasantly surprised. I hadn't known going in that this was the first half of a two-parter and that we'd leave off with a cliffhanger, and it definitely has me wanting more by the end. Let me just get it out of the way, give you a spoiler warning. I'm treating this as though you have already seen the episode. If you haven't, click off the video, come back once you have. That said, this episode, for those who may have caught my previous episode discussion video, I was very much apprehensive going into this one, thinking it might feel like a step down after the two Titans, the monumental back and forth of the Doctor and Davros, all the Daleks, Missy, and everything that was going crazy in the first two episodes of Series 9. I was really afraid that I was going to be largely unimpressed with this episode, and I couldn't say any further how further from the truth that was, and how that turned out to be. I was absolutely on the edge of my seat throughout the entirety of this episode, and not least of which because just minutes into it, they grab you by the lapels, and you're along for the ride whether you want to be or not, and it's just absolutely insane. The suspense and the tension all through the episode, it was, palpable, at least for me watching this episode. Like I say, just minutes into it, you have this underwater base and these science, military sort of mashup, this crew. And their head guy, when they have this, what is very visibly an alien sort of vessel that has been found, the engines activate, it combusts, and it takes out their head guy within minutes, and they're all running for their lives and everything from what appear to be ghosts, and he becomes one of them, all that kind of stuff. And I was just like, whoa, they're really not playing softball here. They're not messing about, And from that point, it was just like, all right, I got to see what's happening here, Of course, the TARDIS lands, and I feel like it's almost a callback to the classic series because, the Doctor comes out and he's like, well, why have you brought us here, girl? And he's like, sensing that the TARDIS, for whatever reason, has deposited them here, but it wants nothing to do with it. It wants to get the hell back out of there again. It's not liking, the environment or something about it. And immediately, of course, the Doctor and Clara walk headlong into these two ghosts. And it's very intriguing how they don't know how to react to them. And I love how, as the revelations are occurring throughout the course of the episode, the Doctor's investigating this and he's working in tandem with this crew to figure this out. The whole daytime, nighttime aspect. There are shades of this episode that are reminiscent of things that we've seen before, especially in recent years in Doctor Who. The Impossible Planet Satan Pit episode comes to mind. 42 comes to mind. And I have to say, for my money, I really feel like this is almost a hybridization, a better version maybe of those episodes. Not that those were, slouches by any stretch of the imagination, but I just felt like for my own personal sense of, I'm somebody who has actually a history in the real world, of being very intrigued and interested in underwater archaeology. It's something that my parents, before their passing, that was actually their occupation. And, so, things like shipwrecks underwater and all that kind of stuff, scoping out what is essentially the vastest, other than space, unexplored region of our own planet, we, the humans, deposit on it. All of those estimations were intriguing to me. Then you find out it's a lake, there was flooding and it had overcome, and this army base had succumbed to this flooding, and it's that much underwater now, and that's what they're investigating. And this alien vessel was amongst that stuff. It's like, shades of, I guess you could say Roswell. Maybe a ship crashed here. They were trying to do studies, conduct experiments, maybe make a sort of super soldier. I don't know what exactly they were doing. But by the end of this episode, the Doctor's basically pieced together. It's killing people to use kind of their brain energy to make more expounded this signal to wherever it came from. It's using this strange terminology like the darkness and the sword and all that kind of stuff, which is the best sort of equation in its own language to give you its position, where it's located. And, they find what is essentially sort of a casket, suspended animation, casket, where presumably the pilot is entombed within, but the Doctor can't get it open. It's deadlocked, sealed, all these kinds of things. And so the mystery, it's like the Doctor, he himself says in this episode, for every, question answered, there's a ton more that are cropping up. And it's not making sense. And, I also love, by the way, that, their secondary leader, after they dispatch the oil conglomerate guy, kind of shades of Jurassic Park that, get rid of the lawyer via T-Rex. In this episode, he's the second one to go and everything because he's out looking for something he can hopefully use, to make money off of for his conglomerate and everything. He's just concerned about the dollars and cents, what are assets, what are not, and everything. So get rid of him. I was fine with that. And but I love that the second most, in command is somebody who is speaking through sign language and everything. And I gotta say, for those of you who may or may not be interested in anime, I was very much, reminded of a series that just wrapped recently that I was covering in episodic reviews called Gangsta, which one of the primary characters was deaf and, spoke through sign language primarily. And they had dog tags, which, if you're familiar with that series, you know what the dog tags represent. But watching this episode with these people with dog tags and sort of pseudo-military garb and, the sign language, I was just really reminded of that. And I loved it even more so for that. And I got to say also, out of this group, Alice O'Donnell, make her a companion, please. Perfect companion, equivalent in her character. I love how boisterous she is. I love how fangirling she is when she learns the doctor's from Unit. He's a doctor. She's a big fan and everything like that. And just, at one point he's like congratulating her for switching to day mode after it had automatically switched to night because these ghosts, air quotes, are manipulating everything. And she's just like, really? No, I love her character. I love the actress. I love the character. Make her a mainstay, please. Or at least have her crop up again. Don't kill her off in the second half. That'll really just rub me the wrong way. But yeah, I mean, toward the end of this, as the suspense is building and you're not sure what's going to happen, they've trapped, for all intents and purposes, these spirits. And the doctor realizes whatever this amounts to, time travel is going to have to come into play to make sense of it. I can't get into the casket. We figured out that the symbols inside the ship are pretty much, the language it's trying to speak, its homing beacon, if you will. And there's just not enough information. It's like the Sherlock thing. I need more data, is the doctor's stance. And so they end up separated, the doctor, O'Donnell, and another guy. And, of course, Clara is stuck behind with the sign language speaking commander and her interpreter. And it's kind of like, oh, damn, because all of a sudden they think everything's hunky-dory. The doctor's going to go back in time to before the flood. He's going to piece things together. He's going to come back, save the day. And then you have that just crazy cliffhanger. I did not, for once, expect or suspect was coming. The doctor is a spirit. And Clara has already sort of prefaced this by saying, oh, some other person must have been transfixed in the past by this message. Their brain chemistry, as the doctor describes, changed by seeing the message. And so this spirit must be one that was out wandering or something like that. And just the look on her face when she realizes it's the doctor. And then the teaser for next week as it follows. It's like, whoa. What the hell's going to happen? I think it's a safe bet that, the doctor, is going to have some way to get out of this. Maybe it's going to be Clara who does this. And I think it's very intriguing. One of the lasting aspects of this episode, with the confirmation that Jenna Coleman is going to be leaving the show. We don't know when that's going to take effect. But there's that moment early into the episode where the doctor has gone back into the TARDIS, put on the handbrake, because obviously the TARDIS wants the hell out. Wants to get out of here, does not like this area, the ghosts and all that kind of stuff. And the doctor has that moment where he's kind of like, down girl to Clara, don't be like me. We have this tremendous dimension inside the TARDIS, but there's only room enough for one me. I loved that line. And it definitely pricked up my ears in the sense that, well, this is kind of foreshadowing, isn't it? She's really jumping at the gun. I mean, there's that whole awkward moment where she's got her hand up and she's like, don't leave me hanging. And the doctor's just like, typical companion. She just seems overly excited about this. to an almost abnormal level, at least for me. And I think the Doctor sensed that, and it's intriguing, with the idea that her loss is probably imminent one way or the other, whether she just decides to walk off, whether she's killed, whatever's going to be the fate of the character, Clara Oswald. I don't know if the Doctor has perceived that. I don't know if he's already aware of that. I don't know if this is foreshadowing just because, he, in that moment, is very much concerned for the way she's conducting herself. I don't know. But it was very noticeable to me. And that aspect in the preview for the next episode, it seems like there's so much of Clara trying to piece things together, and maybe she's going to be an integral factor into undoing whatever leaves us with the 12th Doctor, the Capaldi ghost, and all those sort of flashbacks of dialogue that we hear the Doctor saying, I needed to die, I needed to figure this out, and all this kind of stuff. And so, I mean, I couldn't say any higher praise about this episode. There was so much in it that I really enjoyed and really intrigued me, twists and turns that I literally didn't see coming. And certain aspects I did here and there, but the whole point was it enjoyable? Was it more enjoyable than I had gone in, again, with the apprehension of following on from Davros, and the Daleks, and Missy, and Clara, and the Doctor. In those first 2 episodes, this was gangbusters, 10 for 10. The first 3 episodes, 10, 10, 10, all 10s. As far as I'm concerned, I loved it. I can't wait to see where we pick up in the next episode, how this is all going to play out. And, yeah, I'd love to hear from you guys in the comments below, my fellow Whovians. If you've seen Under the Lake, were you as impressed with it as I was? If not, why not? We can, agree to disagree and just have that conversation that I so love in the comments and everything, and pick apart why we either loved or hated it. And for me, unabashedly loved this episode. So, otherwise, I hope this video finds you well. That'll be pretty much it for me on this, and I'll catch you later. Peace.